Welcome everyone to the final video in this series of 5 days, 5 VRs. If you have followed along with me this whole week, I just want to say thank you so very much. I appreciate it. I am still going through all the comments, but rest assured, I read them all and I am grateful for them all. And I am also happy to be finishing this up. Let's wrap up this bitch. So this video is in response to Kay over at Amidst the Gray. And she created this fantastic tag called Coffee House Decks. Of course, I will link the video in the description box below. I enjoyed it so much. It was just a great time to watch. And okay, so there are 13 prompts. And the premise is you're essentially choosing a deck that matches the personified qualities of like these different coffee house drinks. So Kay said that we could do any or all of the prompts, keeping it flexible. I just went down the list, and the ones that I could easily think up an answer for, those are the prompts that I'm going to go with. So essentially, out of the 13, I'm going to answer 10 of them. But I will, of course, list all 13 prompts in the description box below if you would like to take part. So the first prompt is the espresso shot, a deck that's strong, punchy, and gets straight to the point. So I have more than one answer to this. And the first deck I'm going to show you is my notorious JBG Tarot. And I created this using public domain art by Jasmine Beckett Griffith. And this for sure is it's a lot of feistiness wrapped in a small package. Let's just put it that way. And so whenever I do want to get that kind of no nonsense, quick and dirty reading, don't mess around, just give it to me straight, this is a great deck for that. Of course, I have used this also for more exploratory readings where I do sit with the messages and I do contemplate more and really let the messages sink in. So in that way, I do feel like this is a versatile deck for me, but I would call this definitely a good espresso shot. And then my second answer to this prompt would be pretty much any Lenormand deck that I have. I think that in general is a system that lends to the kind of punchy types of readings. And so I am going to show the Black Salt Lenormand, and this is by our very own Logan over at Larkin Legend. And he sent this to me for review, along with the Pink Sugar Lenormand, which I will be pulling out during the warmer months. But what I just in general enjoy about Lenormand is that, at least the way that I read these cards, I am not having to parse all the different details to make out any kind of symbolism that would lend to my reading. The central image itself is the main symbol. And so a key is a key is a key. And now Logan did put in little garnishes here and there, like for instance, this little bunny. And I will leave a link to his walkthrough so that he can explain to you all his little Sailor Moon references and nostalgic childhood references. It's really a fantastic deck. But ultimately, and even though this is what I would call a more modern take of the traditional Lenormand, it's still, for me, is is great for the way that I read Lenormand, which is just more of that, once again, that quick and dirty. Um, a ring is a ring, and that has set symbolic meanings for me. And so I can lay down a set of 3 cards. I typically, most times I'm doing just like a 3 card spread. I'm not really into the grand tableau, to be honest. Anyway, and so I can do that and get a punchy, straight to the point reading based off those 3 cards. The next prompt is The Drip, a deck that's simple, accessible, and gets the job done. I chose the Hanson Roberts Tarot because it's a classic. For me, it is just pretty simple and basic and accessible in that you can get this pretty much anywhere. I mean, it's just easily accessible because it's still in print. It's not that expensive. And I don't think it's going anywhere because it's considered one of those classics. So it is what I would call an RWS clone, very much RWS leaning, where I don't necessarily need the titles to know what I'm looking at because they are so complementary to Pixie's original imagery. And yeah, it gets the job done. Certainly does that. So it's a great little deck. One that I actually, it was a slow burn deck as well. One that it took me some time to bond with, and pleasantly surprised me in how much I bonded with it when I took the time. Speaking of taking my time, the next prompt is the Pour-Over, a deck you need to take your time with, but is totally worth the effort. And I chose the Herb Crafter's Tarot. I am not a plant person, an herb person. I certainly love flowers and different types of plants, but not to the point where I wish to cultivate them in my house. You can ask Matt. He is the plant guy. I don't have any interest in that or learning about herbs. It just has never been something that I wanted to necessarily devote a deep dedicated study to. And so when this deck came out, honestly, I couldn't have given less of a shit. I mean, let's be real. I could not have been any less interested, even though I know it's beautiful. I mean, the art is absolutely breathtaking, in my opinion. And it really wasn't until, the Three Girls Live where Sarah made her case for this deck, and she definitely swayed me. She definitely swayed me. And so I made a trade with Beth over at Aspasia Rising and traded Deviant Dude for this. And I think I got the better end of the deal because I don't think Beth has her Deviant Dude anymore. But I think aside from the beautiful imagery is the strength of the guidebook because it is very well thought out in terms of the system so that I understand why the choices were made. And I will probably always be using the guidebook with this deck, and that's fine by me. And I think this has definitely been a fun way to learn more about plants and trees and such. And it does take, that time and the effort to do so. The next prompt is the Cafe Latte, a deck that's well received and highly palatable. And I chose the Moon Baby. This is the first edition. I know that there's also a second edition that is a different color scheme. I think it's more like a chartreuse green with like green edging. I don't know. So the first edition had like pale pink edging, but like I said, I modified this. Did I say I modified this? I did. I modified it. Oh goodness, I'm tired today. I modified it to get rid of the white borders, and then I went ahead and edged it in a combination of pinks and greens. So, and the reason I chose this deck is because I do feel like both the first and second edition were well received, in that this is modeled after the Hoi Polloi Tarot, which is out of print. It is highly sought after. It is expensive. And so for those of us who were unwilling to chase down a copy and then pay the expensive prices for that copy, this has been a fantastic alternative. And yeah, I think it's palatable because it is an RWS clone. I think it just visually looks yummy. You know, it looks like candy or like a refreshing sorbet or something. I don't know. I love the colors of this deck. I also love the look of the second edition, but I do not need 2 editions of this deck. The next prompt is the MOCHA, a deck that's rich, indulgent, and a bit extra. No surprise that I would choose my Tarot de la Nuit for this. This deck is not just a bit extra, it is completely OTT, and that is what I love about it. This, as I have said before, is not a deck that puts on any airs. It's not pretending to be a Marielle or a Tabula Mundi, and it can still give a potent reading, at least in my experience. And as a matter of fact, I am going to link Dawn Michelle's video where she talks about this deck and how she uses it. And she articulates everything I feel about this deck so well. So I will go ahead and provide that link for you. Check it out if you haven't and you're maybe curious about this deck. And part of that video, she shows it paired with the Oracle de la Nuit, or actually, did they name it like de la Nuit Oracle or something stupid like that? Anyway, I was not interested in that Oracle at all until I saw her video, and now I'm pretty tempted. The next prompt is the Cortado, a deck that's balanced and objective. And for this, I chose the Tarot Sirene. Apologies, I am not sure if this is still in print or not, but for me, any kind of Marseille-style pip deck lends to the more balanced and objective type of reading, just because of the nature of the pips, the pip images. And then on top of that, I tend to read Marseille and other pip style decks using numerology. So, those two together makes for a neutral starting point for any type of reading that I would do. And as you can see, I've written all over this deck because it was a study deck for me a couple years ago. So one of the only Marseille style decks I have, actually. The next drink is the Con Panna, which I have never had before. And that is a deck that puts you in your place, but with a hint of sweetness. And I chose the Tarot of Mystical Moments because in my experience, this is a deck that has definitely done that for me. It's put me in my place. It has spoken some hard truths, led me to some harsh realizations, but in such a way that was gentle because of these kind of romantic, lovely images. So this deck, puts me in my place with some sweetness, not too much sweetness. I wouldn't call this deck saccharine. It has a gentle quality, but it's, and I've said this before, for me, this is a High Priestess deck. This is High Priestess energy. And so High Priestess is, I always think of the High Priestess as, yes, they can be kind and gentle, but also a little bit distant, just a little bit held back, a little mysterious. And so I like that about this deck, that it's not too, it doesn't sugarcoat things for me. The next drink is the Matcha Latte, an acquired taste or a bit unconventional. And I chose the Brother to Brother Oracle. I have talked about this deck a couple times on my channel, so I'm not going to go too far into it, but I think this deck could be an acquired taste for some because it is unconventional. It has its own unique structure and system, and while you don't have to use it that way, that is how it was designed. And so, for some, that might not be worth tackling. For me, I plan to dip into that structure. I haven't yet. I've been using it freestyle, and it's worked beautifully for me. Another thing, some people might not like square decks. I love square decks. And this specific dimension, like the specs of this square deck, is just perfect for my little hands. And then, yes, okay, so the bro energy, I mean, that could also be an acquired taste, I suppose, for some. But, this is a deck that, it's not just limited to the dude bros. I am not a bro. And I have found great value from using this deck. Speaking of coffee, I really could use one right now because my hamster ball is deflating quickly. Anyway, hot chocolate, a deck that speaks to a younger version of yourself. The Masters of the Universe Tarot is my choice. I love me some He-Man and She-Ra. She-Ra is more my jam, but I also loved He-Man. Love them both. FYI, this is a deck that I modified in that the titles, there were a few titles that were misspelled, and I just could not abide. And so I rewrote the titles. Anyway, anyone else out there, Masters of the Universe fans? I love that it's a mix of both He-Man and She-Ra. Again, another clone, which I think really works well for this type of pop culture reference. I don't need to rely on any kind of plot arc from a particular episode. It's just a mix of all the different characters from both universes in RWS postures. And so that really just opens the deck up to being interpreted in any number of ways. Just so well done. Love the art style. Love everything about it, except for the misspellings. And final prompt that I'm going to do is the Italian Soda, a deck that's fun, low-key, and not overly serious. And I chose the Callow Lily Tarot. Apologies, this is an out-of-print deck, but if you know my aesthetic at all, then you know I love the kind of bobble-headed, dolly-looking chicks. And again, another kind of RWS clone, RWS leaning deck. It's just a fast reader because of that, and I love the art. That's really all there is to it. So it doesn't really go any deeper than that. I love the the look of the deck and the images. There are a few cases in which the creator has reused a few of the visual elements, but I don't really mind that. It's not terribly redundant. I don't mind when deck creators do that from time to time because, you know, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So if they can reuse something here and there, that doesn't necessarily bother me, as long as it doesn't feel lazy, you know. So it's just a good time. Love the colors, love the outfits, love the vibe. You know, it would probably go well with my my Notorious JBG or my JBG Oracle. It fits in that family, if you will. And that is the end of 5 days, 5 ERs. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this series. Once again, many thanks. And until the next time, much love and take care.